everyone, welcome back to CBSE Learners. This is me Pooja M.K. Rao. You are watching me on my channel and you are all welcome to my online classes. This class is specifically for my Class 7 students, and today in this class we will be discussing 3 questions. That is, these are not any 3 questions. We are going to discuss the prose section, the text, the chapter 3 questions. Now, what does this 3-question chapter indicates? Actually, this full chapter revolves around 3 questions. The first question is, what is the right time to begin something? The second is, which people should he listen to? What is the most important thing for him to do? Now, who is the him here? Actually, this story revolves around a king who is confused, who wants to know these 3 questions. And for knowing the answers of these 3 questions, not only the simple answers, the exact apt answers for these questions, he will call for the several wise persons and he would like to know what will be the exact answer. And in this chapter, we will know how the king he gets this answer. Okay, so this is a story similarly like something like Aesop fables or Panchatantra like stories. This is not any part from a novel or part from a narrative or a short story. Something little bit Indianic in style, and it is all about the short story. Okay, so let's read the text. Okay, now the 3 questions. The thought came to a certain king that he would never fail if he knew 3 things. So actually the king thought that I can win everywhere and I will never fail if I know the answer of these 3 questions. Okay. Now, what is the 3 questions? These 3 things were, what is the right time to begin something? What people should he listen to? What is the most important thing for him to do? The king therefore sent messengers throughout the kingdom, promising a large sum of money to anyone who would answer these 3 questions. And so he sent all his ministers, or you can call his persons, king's person, to all over his kingdoms to find the wise person who can answer these 3 questions, and in return he would pay that person a huge sum of money. Okay. Now, many wise men came to the king, but they all answered the questions differently. So, people are different, their answers will also be different, isn't it? So, many wise people came to the king's court, but they all answers differently. And in return, they made the king more confused. Okay. Now, in reply to the first question, some said the king must prepare a timetable and then follow it strictly. On this way, they said, could he do everything at his proper time? So some people they said that he can make a proper timetable and he can follow that so that he can do everything in proper time. Okay. So that he can do all the work in proper time. Others said that it was impossible to decide in advance the right time for doing something. So some people were they were thinking on the behalf of some people. They thought that it is not possible to say the exact time when to start the proper work. They cannot tell in advance that what is the proper time to start any work. The king should notice all that was going on, avoid foolish pleasures, and always do whatever seemed necessary at time. So they said that the king should not he should not indulge himself in unnecessary pleasures. Okay, he should not waste his time. He should always keep notice on what is going on around him so that he cannot get a chance or he cannot miss any chance. Okay. So, yet others said that the king needed a council of wise men who would help him act at a proper time. But few people, they said, they were of opinion that he should keep a council, a group of some wise men. Council means a group of wise men. Okay, a group of people chosen to give advice or to make rules. Okay, now see in your book we have given the meaning of council. Okay, council is a group of men chosen to give advice or to make decisions, to make rules, okay, or decisions. Now see, this was because one man would find it impossible to decide correctly without help from others, the right time for every action. So why they were of opinion that he should keep a councils of wise men? Because according to them, they were thinking that it's not possible for one man to decide what is correct and what is the correct time to do the work. Okay, now but then others said that there were some things which could be urgent. These things could not wait for the decision of the council. In order to decide the right time for doing something, it is necessary to look into the future. But some others were the opinion that only the wise men cannot decide what should be done. What should be done, it will depend on the future. So he should appoint some magicians also, so that they can tell what is going to happen in the future. Okay. The king therefore would have to go to magicians. In their answer to the second question, some said that the people most necessary to the king were his counselors. Others said the priest. So who are counselors? Members of council. Okay, so from council you can see that counselors. Counselors means members of a council. Okay, so in the answer to the second question, which people should listen to, some said that he should keep some counselors. Okay, now and others said he should ask priests. Priests are who done some religious activities, isn't it? So a few others chose the doctors, and yet others said that the soldiers were the most necessary. Some said soldiers, some said doctors. So different people are of different opinion. To the third question, some said science, others chose fighting, and other religious worship. What is the most important thing for him to do? So for the third question's answer, some people chose science, some people chose fighting, some people chose religious worship. So different people were of different answer they were giving and different opinions. To the third question, okay, I said this one. As the answers to his questions were so different, the king was not satisfied and gave no reward. Instead, he decided to seek the advice of a certain hermit who was wisely known for his wisdom. So, he was not satisfied with all this answer because it was making him more confused. It was not making sense to the king. These all answers were making him more confused. So, he decided he won't pay any reward or he won't give any prize to those people who had answered. Instead, he thought of going and meeting one hermit who was wisely known for his wisdom. Okay, widely known, famous, who was famous for his wisdom. Okay, now who is hermit? Hermit, a person who lives alone and leads a simple life. Okay, now hermits. Okay, I'm erasing this one. Okay. Hermit. Okay. Are people who lives alone and leads a simple life. Okay, these are hermits. Okay, now the hermit lived in a wood. What is woods? Woods are similar to forests. Sometimes we called forest as wood, isn't it? So one example I want to give you that you have read Stopping by Wood by Robert Frost, isn't it? So in that poem, you can see that he has compared the wood. Wood means the forest. Okay, so wood means forest. Okay, now see, so the hermit used to live in a forest, which he never left. He saw no one but simple people, and so the king put on ordinary clothes. Before he reached the hermit hut, the king left his horse with his bodyguard and went on alone. So what the king had done? The king, he planned that he wanted to meet that hermit who used to live in a forest. So what he had done? He just, instead of wearing king's clothes, he just wore the clothes of a normal people. He dressed up as a normal people and he went to meet the hermit alone. He left his bodyguard and his horses back. Okay, so he went like a normal person, an ordinary person. As the king came near the hermit's hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. So when he reached the hermit's hut, he saw that the hermit was digging a hole or on the ground. Okay, so in the ground he was digging the ground in front of his hut. He greeted the king and continued digging. He greeted the king and maybe in his language he greeted like good morning, good afternoon, whatever we greet, isn't it? When we see someone in our class or we say hello, hi. So it was according to the hermit's nature. He greeted him and he continued digging. The hermit was old and weak, and as he worked he breathed heavily. So as he was old, he was looking old and he was weak. But as he was working, so as he was old, so when he will work, old people, what happens? They start breathing heavily, isn't it? They start panting. So what happened when he was digging the ground? He was breathing heavily. The king went up to the hermit and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I need most, and what affairs are the most important? Okay, so the king went to the hermit and said, I have come to you to know the answers of 3 questions. Now he has said these 3 questions to the hermit. Okay, so and what affairs are the most important? Now affairs mean what? Things, matters or business. Okay, affairs means things, matters or business. Okay, now let's go to the text. The hermit listened to the king but did not speak. He went on digging. You are tired, said the king. Let me take the spade and work in your place. So he said to the hermit listened to the king, but instead of answering to the king's question, he kept on digging the ground. The king said that as he was in need of the answer, so he said to the hermit that you are tired, I think. So as he was old, so you can say he felt sympathy, he felt pity, or he wanted to work for the hermit. So he took the spade and he said, you are tired, let me work in your place. Okay, thanks, said the hermit, giving the king his spade. Then he sat down on the ground. So he said thanks to the When the king had dug 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his questions. So after the king had completed digging 2 beds, now here bed means not our usual bed or general bed. Here bed means place for flower where we grow on the ground, isn't it? So bed means small patches of ground for plants. So when the king had completed digging 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his questions. The hermit gave no answer but stood up, stretching out his hands for the spade and said, now you rest, let me work. So when he had completed digging 2 beds, so he said to the hermit, once again he repeated his questions to get the answers. But instead of answering the king's question, what the hermit had done? The hermit had stretched his hand and he said, now you take rest, let me do my work. Okay. But the king did not give him the spade and continued to dig. 1 hour passed, then another. The sun went down behind the trees, and at last the king stuck the spade into the ground and said, I came to you, wise man, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me no answer, tell me so, and I will return home. Here comes something running, said the hermit. So 1 hour passed, then another. The sun went down behind the trees. So while he was digging, he was continuing digging the ground. So 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed, and the time came when the sun was setting. Okay. Now what happened? He got tired and he just thrown the spade. And he asked the hermit that I have come to you for my answers. If you cannot give me any answer, then you should have saved me so that I can go my home back. I can return to my home. Here comes someone running, said the hermit. So the hermit said that here someone is coming. Okay. Now let's see. We will read in the next segment or the part 2. What is there in the future? Before going to the part 2, I will discuss the comprehension check. Now what is the comprehension check given over here? The first question is, why did the king want to know answers to 3 questions? Okay. Okay, so why he wanted to know? The king thought that he would never fail. He would never fail if he knew the answers of these three questions. Okay, now the number 2. What is the number 2? So I hope the number 1, the comprehension check, you have understood. The king thought that he would never fail if he knew the answers of these three questions. The second one is, messengers were sent throughout the kingdom for what? For what he had sent messengers? To announce a reward for those who could answer the questions. Okay, so messengers were sent. So I am erasing the first one once again. Number 2, messengers were sent throughout the kingdom. Why they were sent? Here they have given you 4 choice and you have to answer your choice, the correct answer. Okay, now the first one they have given is to fetch wise men. Number 2, to find answers to the question, to look for the wise hermit. Number 4 is to announce a reward for those who could answer the question. So actually the fourth one is correct. To announce a reward for those who could answer the questions. To announce reward for those who could answer the question. Actually, they see the first one, yes, they went to find the wise man, but in the story they have given that in return they have given some reward. They promised to give some reward also if they can answer the question. So I think the appropriate answer will be the fourth one. Okay, now let's continue further in the second part of the story. Okay, the king turned round and saw a bearded man running towards them. His hands were pressed against his stomach, from which blood was flowing. When he reached the king, he fainted and fell to the ground. The king and the hermit removed the man's clothing and found a large wound in his stomach. The king washed and covered it with his handkerchief, but the blood would not stop flowing. The king redressed the wound until at last the bleeding stopped. So when they turned round to see, when the hermit said, "There's come someone running." So when they turned to see who was coming, they found a bearded man. He kept his hands on his stomach from where it was bleeding. Okay, so he fainted on the ground when he reached the hermit's hut. The king and the hermit removed, they removed the man's dress, they removed the man's clothing and found a large wound in his stomach, and they found there was a large wound. Okay, now what they done, the king washed and covered it with his handkerchief. Now what they done, they have washed that wound, they cleaned the wound and they dressed it up. They cleaned it with the handkerchief, but the blood did not flow. The king redressed the wound until at last the bleeding stopped. So he tried to clean unless and until the bleeding stopped. Okay. The man felt better and asked for something to drink. The king brought fresh water and gave it to him. By this time the sun had set and the air was cool. The king with the hermit's help carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. So when the bleeding stopped, the man felt better and he asked the king that whether he can get something to drink or not. So what the king had done, the king had brought some fresh water and given the bearded man or the wounded man to drink. Okay. Now by this time the sun had already set and the environment was cool and fresh. The king with the hermit's help carried the wounded man, and the king with the help of the hermit, they carried the wounded man inside the house and laid him on the bed. The man closed his eyes and lay quiet. The king, tired by his walk and the work he had done, lay down on the floor and slept through the night. When he woke up, it was several minutes before he could remember where he was or who was the strange bearded man lying on the bed was. Okay, so he was so tired with the work he had done that he lied on the floor, and next day he woke up. When he woke up, it was several minutes before he could remember where he was or who the strange man lying on the bed. Forgive me, said the bearded man in a weak voice, when he saw the king was awake. I do not know you and have nothing to forgive you for, said the king. So when he woke up, it takes, when we wake up, just it takes some time to remember us everything. So it took some time to remember that where he was and why he was lying on the floor, who was the bearded man. Okay, the bearded man said to the king that please forgive me. Now I don't know you and have nothing to forgive you for. The king said that actually I don't know you, and for what I should forgive you, I just can't understand. You do not know me, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who swore revenge on you because you put my brother to death and seized my property. I knew you had gone alone to see that hermit, and I made up my mind to kill you on your way home. But the day passed and you did not return, so I left my hiding place and I came upon your bodyguard, who recognized me and wounded me. I escaped from him, but I should have died if you have not dressed my wound. So he said that you don't know me, but I know you. I am one of your enemies. Okay. So in olden days, there were so many enemies of the kings, isn't it? Because they used to conquer the territories of the others, and for if someone is doing any they are going against the law of the kings or the kingdoms, they used to punish them. So equally, the king had punished the brother of this bearded man for some fault or something he had done, and he seized his property also. So for that sake, this bearded man was planning to kill the king when he heard that the king was going to meet the hermit alone. So what he had done, he escaped in the forest and he planned to kill the king. So what he had done, he just went to the bodyguard. He wanted to kill the bodyguard first. So the bodyguard recognized him and wounded him. But with that wound, he reached to the hermit's hut and was cured by the king. Okay. So for that sake, he was asking forgiveness from the king. But I should have died if you had not dressed my wound. I wish to kill you and you have saved my life. Now if I live, I will serve you as your most faithful servant and will order my sons to do the same. Forgive me. So what the person was saying, that now I have become faithful, means obedient to you, and loyal and true. Here they have given the meaning loyal and true. And now I will, because if you have saved my life by dressing up my wound, by curing my wound, unless and until I will survive, I will be your servant. I will always do whatever you say, and even I will tell my sons also to do what you ordered, because you saved my life. Okay? And please forgive me. The king was very happy to have made peace with his enemy so easily and to have won him over as a friend. He not only forgave him but said he would send his servants and his own doctor to look after him, and he promised to give back the man's property. The king felt so happy by making a friendship with his enemy, and he made a peace with his enemy. So he felt very happy, and he promised that he will send his servants and his doctors to the bearded person, and he promised that he will return his property back. Leaving the wounded man, the king went out of the hut and looked round the hermit. Before going away, he wished once more to get answers to his questions. The hermit was on his knees showing seeds in the bed that he had been dug the day before. The king went up to the hermit and said, "For the last time I beg you to answer my questions, wise man." So when he thought that let's try once more to get the answer from the wise hermit. So he went to he went to meet the wise hermit. So when he gone to meet the wise hermit, what he found? He found that he was sowing the seeds on the beds that was dug by the king the day before. Okay. So he went once again and he asked that, for the last time before I leave, I am asking you that whether you can answer my questions or not. "You have already been answered," said the hermit, still bending down on the ground and looking up at the king as he stood before him. he was still, the position of the hermit was he was still bending down on the ground on his knees, and he was looking at the king. Okay, now what the answer he has given? He had given that you are already answered. How have I been answered? What do you mean? So the king was surprised to hear this answer from the hermit, that you have already been answered. So the king asked in surprise that, what do you mean? How I have been answered? Do you not see? Replied the hermit. If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday and had not dug these beds for me, you would have gone away. Then that man would have attacked you and you would have wished you had stayed with me. Or the most important thing was when you were digging the beds. Okay, so he said that you felt pity on me, so you continued to dig the ground, and as you were feeling pity. If you are not patient if you have not shown your sympathy or pity on me, you would have gone and this enemy would have attacked you, and this incident of forgiveness would not happen. And I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. Okay, so what he said that, and I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. Afterwards, when the man ran to us, the most important time was when you were caring for him. Because if you had not dressed his wound, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was the most important business. Okay, so he said that when you are feeling sympathy for me, you are feeling pity for me, I was the most important man to you, and the work you were doing for me was the most important thing. And when this wounded man arrived to you, you have shown pity on him, you cared for him. That time he was the most important man for you, and the dressing you have done, the work you have done for him was the most important thing. Remember then, there is only one time that is important. That time is now. So what is the most important time? That is now. It is the most important time because it is the only time we have any power to act. So now, that is, it is the most important time where we have the power to act. Okay. The most necessary person is the person you are with at a particular moment. For no one knows what will happen in the future and whether we'll meet anyone else. The most important person is the person with whom you are at the time. Okay? And at that particular time with whom you are. Because you don't know whether you will meet that person in future or not. Okay? So, the most important time is now, and the most important person is the person with whom you are at that particular time. And the most important business is to do that person good, because we were sent in this world for that purpose only. And to most important business is to do good to the person at that time with whom you are, because we are sent in this world to do good, only to do good, not to harm others. Okay, so this story was retold, as I have said that it is a sort of short story, so here it was retold by Leo Tolstoy. So it was like, grandma's story or like that story, so like fables. So this story was retold by Leo Tolstoy. Okay, not written, it was retold. So it is like grandma's stories or fables. So it was retold by Leo Tolstoy. Okay, so I hope you also got the answers of these three questions. The first one is, the right time is now. The right people is with whom you are at that particular time. And the most important business is to do good with the person you are at that particular time. So I hope you like this video. If you like this video, just hit the like button along with the bell button, and please subscribe my channel if you still have not subscribed my channel. Okay, because most of you are going without subscribing my channel. So please subscribe my channel and stay tuned with us for more informational video like this. Okay, thanks a lot. Take care.